stressful times right now. Honestly, same. I cannot wait for my vacation in August. Yeah. But let me think, what could I do for you to relax you a little bit? What could I do? What could I do? Wait a second. Where is it? Here. How about I read you a little good night story? Would you like that? This is also a very special book because this is a copy from Alice in Wonderland from 1907. Yeah, it's, I think, one of my most prized possessions. So, would you like me to read you a story? Yeah, okay, that's nice. So, I think I'll just start with the first chapter. Oh, and I also, if you would like that, I can brush over your face a little bit. Is that good? Is that okay? Alright, perfect. Alright, then let's start with chapter 1. Down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? She was considering in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought it over afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of his waistcoat pocket and looked at it, and then hurried on, Alice stared at her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it. And burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and was just in time to see pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, down went Alice after it, now once considering how in the world she was able to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down what seemed to be a very deep well. Either the well was very deep or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. And she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboard and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon packs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled orange marmalade. But to her great disappointment, it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar or fear of killing somebody underneath, so she managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely to. must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had learned several things of the sudden lessons in the schoolroom, and thought this was not a very good opportunity showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her. Still, it was good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about the right distance, but then I wonder what latitude and longitude I've gotten to. Alice had no idea what latitude was, nor longitude either, but thought they were nice, grand words to say. Presently she began again. I wonder if I should fall right through the earth. How funny it must seem to come out among the people that walk with their head outwards. The 𝒆𝒑, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening at this time, as it didn't sound all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you could manage it? And what an ignorant little girl she will think of me. No, I'll never do to ask. Perhaps I'll also see if it's written somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice soon began talking again. Dina, I'll miss me very much tonight. I should think Dina was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of the milk at that time. Dina, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat. And that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? For you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't matter much which way she put it. She felt that she was tossing off, and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dina, and saying to her very earnestly, now, Dina, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt. She jumped up on her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her she was in a long passage, and the white rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and she was just in time to hear it as it turned the corner. Oh, my ears and whisker, how late it's getting! She was close behind it when she turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall which was lit up by a roll of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked, and when Alice had been all the way down one side and up the other, trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she was ever going to get out again. Suddenly she came upon a little 3-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it but a tiny golden key, and the first idea was that it might belong to one of the doors of the hall. But alas, either the locks were too large or the key was too small, but at any rate it would not open any of them. However, on the second time round, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 5 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door and found that it led into a small passage. passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She kneeled down and looked along the passage to the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of that dark hole and wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains, but she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought Alice, it would be little of use without any of my shoulders. Oh, I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think I could, if only I knew how to begin. For, you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately that Alice had begun to think that very things indeed were really impossible. There seemed to be no use in waiting by the little door, so she went back to the table, half hoping she might find another key on it. At any rate, a book of rules of shutting people up like telescopes. This time she found a little button on it, which certainly was not there before, and tied around the neck of the bottle was a paper label with the words, "Drink me," beautifully printed on it in large letters. And it's all very well to say, "Drink me," but the wise little Alice was not going to do that in a hurry. "Now look first," she said, "and see whether it's marked as a poison or not." For she had read several little stories about children who had got burned or eaten up by wild beasts and other unpleasant things, all because they would not remember the simple rules their friends had taught them, such as a red-hot poker will burn you if you hold it too long, and that if you cut your finger very deeply with a knife, it usually bleeds. And she had never forgotten that if you drink much from a bottle marked poison, it's almost certain to give you sooner or later. However, this bottle was not marked as poison, so Alice ventured to taste it, and finding it very nice, it had in fact a sort of mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. She very soon finished it off. "What a curious feeling," said Alice. "I must be shooting up like a telescope." And so it was indeed. She was now only 10 inches high, and her face brightened up at the thought she was now the right size for going through the little door into the lovely garden. First, however, she waited for a few minutes to see if she was going to shrink any further. She felt a little nervous about it, for it might end, said Alice to herself, "in my going altogether like a candle. I wonder what I should be like then." And she tried to fancy what the flame of a candle looks like after a candle is blown out, for she could not remember ever having seen such a thing. After a while, finding that nothing more happened, she decided on going to the garden at once. But Alice, poor Alice, when she got to the door, she found she had forgotten the little golden key, and when she went back to the table for it, she found it could not possibly reach it. She could see it quite plainly through the glass, and she tried best to climb up one of the legs of the table, but it was too slippery. And when she tried herself out with trying, the poor little thing sat down and cried. "God, there's no use in crying right that," said Alice to herself rather sharply. "I advise you to leave off this minute." She generally gave herself a very good advice, though she very solemnly followed it, and sometimes she scolded herself so severely as to bring tears into her eyes. And once she remembered trying to box her own ears for having cheated herself in the game of crochet she was playing against herself, for this curious child was very fond of pretending to be two people. But it's no use now, thought Alice, to pretend to be two people. Why, there's hardly enough of me left to make one respectable person. Soon her eyes fell on a little glass box that was lying on the table. She opened it and found a very small cake on which the words, "Eat me," were beautifully marked in currants. "Well, I'll eat it," said Alice, "and if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key." or smaller, I can creep under the door. So either way, I'll get into the garden. I don't care which happens. She ate a little bit and said anxiously to herself, which way, holding her hand on top of her head to feel which way she was growing, and she was quite surprised to find she remained the same size. To be sure, that it was generally happen when one eats cake, but Alice had got so much in the way of expecting nothing but out of the way things to happen, that it seemed quite dull and stupid for life to go on in a common way. So she set to work and very soon finished off.